Mia Carter stood in the cold, sterile room, her heart pounding in her chest. She had trained her whole life for this moment, this test. She wasn't just representing Earth, she was fighting for humanity's place in the stars. The other cadets from various planets across the galaxy were already gathered. Some were big, towering figures with glowing eyes, others small and quick like insects, but all of them seemed powerful in their own way. But Mia was human, and for the first time it felt like that might be a problem. The test was simple, at least that's what the officers had told her. A small sample of blood was taken, and the results would determine if they had the strength, the abilities, the genetic compatibility to join the Galactic Army. The others had already gone through it. Each alien cadet's blood had been tested without issue. All of them passed. Now it was her turn. Mia felt the weight of the room's eyes on her. She was the last to be tested. She couldn't help but feel the fear creeping in. What if they found her blood to be incompatible? What if they saw her as just another human, weak, fragile beneath them? Earth wasn't a powerful planet in the galaxy. They didn't have the strength or technology of some of these alien races. But Mia had something else, the determination to prove that Earth had a place in the stars. That humanity wasn't just a side note in the galactic story. "Cadet Carter," the officer called, his voice cold, mechanical. "Step forward." Mia's stomach tightened. She forced her legs to move, walking to the center of the room, her palms sweating as she placed her arm on the cold metal table. The officer prepared the blood sample, his movements quick and precise. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She wasn't nervous. Not really. She just needed to show them that she belonged here. The officer inserted a needle into her arm. Mia winced at the pinch but remained still, keeping her eyes focused on the table in front of her. The officer collected the blood sample, placing it in the device that would analyze it. It hummed to life, and the room fell silent as they waited. "Your blood is unique," the officer said after a moment, his voice suddenly filled with uncertainty. He looked up from the device, his eyes narrowing. "This is strange. The readings are off the charts." Mia's heart skipped a beat. What does that mean? The officer didn't respond right away. He tapped some buttons on the device, his brow furrowing as the data continued to display. His gaze moved from the screen to Mia, then to his superior, an older officer standing nearby. "Element unknown," he said, his voice filled with disbelief. "Earthborn Prime, this isn't possible." Mia froze. "Earthborn Prime, what's that?" The officer seemed unsure, looking back at the readings on the screen. "I've never seen anything like this before. Earthborn Prime is... It's not part of any known biological classification. Your blood is reacting to the energy fields in a way we've never recorded in any other species." Mia's mind raced. What does that mean for me? Am I disqualified? The officer glanced at the commanding officer, who slowly stepped forward. His gaze was sharp, assessing, and a little too calculating for Mia's comfort. "Cadet Carter," the commanding officer began, his voice filled with authority. "It seems Earth is more than we thought. You are not just a human, you're something else, something extraordinary, and you'll be tested further. Your blood reacts to the energy fields we use in our armies. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. There's potential here, potential that no one has harnessed." Mia's breath caught in her throat. "Potential." The officer nodded, his eyes narrowing with interest. "Yes, you may be the key to something more than we ever expected. This could change everything." For a moment, Mia stood there, unsure of what to say. She had come here to prove humanity's worth, to show that Earth was more than just a forgotten planet at the edge of the galaxy. But this was something else entirely. Was she really meant to be part of their war? Was she meant to be more than just a soldier? Or was she just a tool for them to use? The commanding officer placed his hands behind his back, a faint smile on his lips. "We will continue the tests. Prepare yourself. There is much to learn about you." Mia felt a shiver run down her spine. She had been thrust into a world that she didn't understand, and now she was expected to play a part in it, a part she wasn't sure she was ready for. But she couldn't back down now. The humans had never been the strongest, but they had always been resilient. And this, whatever Earthborn Prime meant, it was hers to control. Her heart beat faster, a mix of fear and excitement rising in her chest. She had always known she was different, but this was something beyond anything she could have imagined. "Yes, sir," Mia replied, her voice steady, but a fire beginning to burn inside her. "I'll be ready." As the officer walked away, Mia stood there, her mind spinning. What had she just become? The unknown element within her blood was a mystery, a new force that she didn't understand. But it was hers, and she would make it her weapon. Mia sat alone in her quarters, her hands trembling slightly as she ran them over the datapad in her lap. The results of the tests were still fresh in her mind, and the words echoed in her head. Earthborn Prime. She had expected to be just another cadet, nothing special. But now her blood had set her apart. She wasn't sure whether that was a blessing or a curse. The galaxy was full of powerful species, beings who had evolved for centuries, each one stronger, faster, or more intelligent than the last. And then there was Earth, with its humans who had somehow managed to survive the harsh conditions of a relatively unremarkable planet. But now, Mia was at the center of a storm that could change everything. The door to her room opened with a soft hiss, and she looked up to see Commander Varros entering. He was tall, with dark blue skin and glowing eyes, a perfect specimen of his species. Mia had seen him a few times during her training, but he had always seemed distant, an authority figure who dealt with the cadets from a distance. Now he was here, and it was clear from the way he looked at her that things had changed. "Cadet Carter," Varros said, his voice calm but with an edge of urgency. "We need to speak." Mia stood up quickly, trying to hide the unease she felt. "Yes, Commander." She met his gaze, but she could feel her heart racing. What more could they want from her? He motioned for her to sit, and Mia obeyed, watching him closely. "The test results have caused quite a stir," he began. "Your blood, your reaction to the energy fields, it's unprecedented. We've never seen anything like it before, not even in the oldest species of this galaxy." Mia swallowed, trying to hide the anxiety creeping up her throat. "I don't understand. What does this mean for me, for Earth?" Commander Varros studied her carefully, his glowing eyes unblinking. "It means that you are more than just human. You have something within you, something that could tip the scales of power in the galaxy. You've been chosen for something far greater than a simple soldier's life." Mia's chest tightened. "Chosen? I never asked for this. I just wanted to prove Earth had a place in this war." She shook her head. "I didn't sign up to be a weapon." The commander paused for a moment, as if weighing her words carefully. "You did not choose this, Cadet, but sometimes things are chosen for us. And now you must decide what you will do with this power. You will be trained in ways you cannot yet understand, and you will be tested, just as every cadet is tested, but your test is different." Mia leaned forward, her eyes burning with determination. "What kind of test? What do you expect from me?" Varros looked away for a brief moment, his gaze turning distant. "You will need to control your power. What we've seen so far, it's unstable, unpredictable. Your blood responds to the galaxy's energy fields, but it's too strong. If you can't learn to harness it, it could destroy you. Or worse, it could destroy everything around you." The weight of his words pressed down on her chest. Destroy everything. Her mind raced with the possibilities. She had known about Earth's weaknesses, had known that they weren't the strongest species out there. But now she was something entirely new, a force, a weapon, and one that was completely out of control. "I don't want to be anyone's weapon," Mia said, her voice trembling despite herself. "You may not have a choice," Varros replied softly, his voice oddly empathetic. "But you do have a chance to change the course of the war, to prove that humans, even with the odds stacked against them, can stand among the galaxy's greatest forces." Mia stared at him, her mind a whirl of thoughts. It felt like everything she had worked for, everything she had sacrificed, was slipping through her fingers. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for Earth, for her people. But could she control this power? Could she rise above the fear and use it for something good? Before she could speak again, Varros gave her a sharp look. "I know this is overwhelming, but we're not here to exploit you, Cadet. We need you. Humanity needs you. The galaxy needs you. The choice is yours." With that, the commander turned and walked toward the door, pausing before leaving. "But remember, once you step into this, there's no turning back." The door slid closed behind him, leaving Mia in silence. She sat there for a long moment, her thoughts spiraling. She had always fought for Earth, always believed that humans could do what others thought impossible. But this was beyond anything she could have imagined. She stood up, her legs shaky, and walked to the small window in her room. She looked out at the stars, the galaxy stretching out before her, full of possibilities, but also full of danger. She had always dreamed of standing among the stars, of fighting for something bigger than herself. But now that dream felt like a heavy burden she wasn't sure she could bear. Mia took a deep breath, her fists clenched at her sides. She didn't have all the answers. She didn't know if she could control this power. But one thing was clear, she wasn't going to let fear stop her. She was human, and she would prove that even Earth's greatest challenges could be overcome. The galaxy would see what humans were truly capable of. Mia stood in the training room, the hum of machinery surrounding her. The walls were lined with alien technology, and various cadets were scattered around, preparing for their daily drills. But today was different. Today, Mia was no longer just another cadet. Today, she was the one everyone was watching. The officer who had tested her blood earlier had briefed her on what would happen next. She was to be tested to see if she could control the strange, powerful reaction her blood had to the galaxy's energy fields. The uncertainty of what would happen weighed heavily on her. She had been told her powers were unstable, unpredictable, but she had no idea what that really meant. Would she be able to harness it, or would she lose control? The door to the training room opened, and Commander Varros entered. His eyes immediately found hers, and he gave her a nod of acknowledgement. But there was something different in his gaze, a glint of expectation. "Cadet Carter," he said, his voice commanding as always. "Today you will demonstrate whether or not you can control your abilities. It's a simple test, but it's important. We've seen what your blood can do, but we need to know if you can focus it." Mia's heart raced. The other cadets watched, their eyes full of curiosity, perhaps even doubt. She could hear the whispers behind her back, the doubt in their voices, the uncertainty about whether the human cadet could live up to the potential the officers had seen in her. She could feel their gaze like a weight on her shoulders. They were waiting for her to fail. But she wasn't going to fail. She couldn't. She took a deep breath, reminding herself that she wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for Earth, for humanity, for every person who had ever believed that Earth had a place among the stars. "Begin," Varros said, motioning for her to step forward. Mia's hands shook as she stepped into the center of the training room. She was surrounded by obstacles, alien dummies designed for combat training, holographic barriers, and energy shields. She could feel her blood stirring in response to the energy fields around her. The power inside her felt like a living thing, something she couldn't quite control, but that was constantly trying to break free. Her chest tightened. Focus, she had to focus. Varros stood to the side, his arms crossed, watching her closely. "You've been trained in basic combat just like the others, but now you will fight without your weapon. Use the power inside you to disable the targets. You will need to focus, cadet. Focus and control it." Mia nodded, swallowing hard. She could do this. She had to do this. She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply, trying to calm the rush of adrenaline in her veins. When she opened her eyes, she felt it. The energy was there, just beneath the surface, swirling like a storm ready to break free. It was so strong, so alive, but she had to keep it in check. Slowly, she raised her hands. At first, nothing happened. Then, just as she felt the familiar warmth starting to build, her hands began to glow faintly. The energy was responding. She focused harder, trying to push the power outward in controlled bursts. The first dummy in front of her jerked backward, as if struck by an invisible force. Mia winced at the recoil. She hadn't meant to hit it so hard. The energy inside her surged, uncontrollable, but this time she forced it back, containing it as best she could. The dummy fell to the ground, its sensors sparking. "Good," Varros said, his voice soft but approving. "Control is key, keep it steady." Mia nodded, her hands shaking but more in determination than fear. She wasn't going to let this power control her. She could feel the energy bubbling beneath her skin, but she forced herself to stay calm. Her goal wasn't just to unleash it, it was to control it. She focused again. This time she moved toward the next dummy. As she approached, she raised her hand, sending a controlled pulse of energy toward it. The dummy staggered, but it didn't fall. She could feel the strain. The power was pushing back against her, refusing to be contained. Her breath quickened. She was starting to lose her focus. She wasn't sure how much longer she could keep this up. "You're doing well," Varros said, watching her closely. "Don't let it overwhelm you. You control it. Focus." With his words, something clicked inside her. She took a deep breath, letting her mind clear. The energy was a part of her now. It wasn't something to fight against. She could feel the rhythm of it like a heartbeat. Slow, steady. She tried again. This time, the energy felt different. It didn't lash out at her. It flowed, responding to her commands. The dummy in front of her floated slightly off the ground before dropping back down, its sensors disabled without a single blast of force. The room was quiet for a moment, and then Varros spoke again, his voice filled with a quiet respect. "Impressive, Cadet Carter. You've managed to control it for now." Mia exhaled in relief, her body sagging slightly from the effort. I didn't think I could." You've done more than we expected, Varro said. But this is just the beginning. The true test will come when you face real combat, when you're under pressure and there's no room for mistakes. Mia's heart raced. She wasn't sure she was ready for that. But in this moment, she knew one thing: she wasn't backing down. She had something inside her that no one could understand yet, and she was going to learn to control it. She was going to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. She wasn't just a soldier, she was something else. And now the galaxy would see what humans were truly capable of. Mia had been training for days, her body aching with exhaustion, but her mind never wavered. Every day she was tested in new ways, mentally, physically, emotionally. She was becoming stronger, but it was her control over the strange power within her blood that terrified her the most. She hadn't yet mastered it, and it wasn't just the danger to herself. It was the danger to everyone around her. The power inside her felt alive, constantly shifting, pulling at her. Sometimes it felt like a storm ready to break free, and other times it was a gentle hum, almost peaceful. But Mia had learned one thing: when it surged, it could easily spiral out of control. That was her biggest fear. What if she couldn't control it? What if the power destroyed everything? Today, the training was even harder. They had set up a simulation, an alien assault on a human outpost, and Mia was to lead the defense. Her squad was ready, but they had been told that this wasn't just any training exercise. This was the real test. "Cadet Carter, this will test your leadership under pressure," said the officer who had been guiding her through her training. He was a tall alien with silver skin, his eyes glowing with a faint light. "You've been trained to control your power, but in battle you must stay focused. You cannot afford to let it control you." Mia nodded, trying to mask the anxiety churning in her stomach. "Understood, sir." The simulation began, and the sounds of explosions and alien war cries filled the air. Mia's squad immediately went into position, weapons raised, scanning for incoming enemies. The environment around them shifted into a war-torn human city, smoke rising from burning buildings, debris scattered across the streets. She held her rifle tightly, trying to steady her breathing. The power inside her was stirring again, but this time she knew she couldn't let it control her. It had to remain contained. She had to focus. The first wave of attackers came at them fast. Mia's squad responded quickly, taking down the first few soldiers with ease. But as the enemy grew stronger, Mia's concentration began to waver. She could feel the power within her growing stronger, pulsing in her veins. It was responding to the chaos around her. She could feel it wanting to break free. "Cadet Carter, focus," the officer's voice cut through her thoughts. She snapped back into the moment, trying to suppress the rising tide of energy. She couldn't afford to lose control. Not here, not now. But then everything changed. A blast of energy hit the building near her, sending her flying backward. Mia landed hard on the ground, her rifle flying out of her hands. Her vision blurred for a moment as she struggled to sit up, but she could hear the chaos around her. Alien soldiers charging forward, weapons blazing. "Get up," a voice shouted. It was Sergeant Miller, one of her squadmates. He had rushed to her side. "We need you." Mia tried to push herself up, but the energy inside her surged. She felt it pulsing, almost like it had a life of its own. It was overwhelming, and for a moment she thought she might lose it completely. But then she heard it, her heartbeat steady and strong. She focused on that, on the rhythm of her body, on the things she could control. Slowly, the energy began to calm. She breathed in, slow and deep, centering herself. She grabbed her rifle and stood. The alien soldiers were closing in, but Mia wasn't afraid anymore. Her power was hers to control, and now she would use it. "Miller, cover me," she shouted. She raised her rifle, taking aim at the incoming aliens. She could feel the power within her, but this time it was different. This time it felt steady, controlled. She fired, each shot hitting its mark. The enemy soldiers dropped one by one. Mia moved forward, her squad right behind her. She felt the energy within her, but it was no longer a storm. It was like a steady current, a force she could guide. She was in control. The remaining enemy forces were beginning to regroup, but Mia's squad was relentless. They pushed forward, taking down every alien that dared stand in their way. With every move, every shot, Mia's confidence grew. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. She wasn't just a soldier, she was a force. The final wave of enemies came at them, but Mia was ready. She raised her rifle one last time, steadying her aim. Her finger pressed down on the trigger, and in that instant, she felt the full force of her power surge through her, focused and strong. The shot rang out, hitting the last of the alien soldiers and sending them crashing to the ground. The simulation ended. The battlefield fell silent and Mia stood there, breathing heavily, sweat dripping from her face. Her squad had won. They had pushed back the alien forces, and it was thanks to her leadership, her control over the power inside her. "Excellent work, Cadet," the officer's voice came from behind her. "You passed the test. Not only did you control your power, but you led your squad to victory." Mia turned, her chest swelling with pride. The officer gave her a rare, approving nod. Mia exhaled, her shoulders finally relaxing. She had done it. She had faced the storm inside her and come out the other side stronger. For the first time since the test results had come in, Mia felt like she could finally see the path ahead clearly. The galaxy was full of challenges, but she was no longer just a human cadet in the eyes of the galaxy. She was something more, and now the world would know what humanity could truly do. Mia stood before her team, feeling the weight of her new role. The training exercises had been rigorous, but today's mission was something else. The officer who had overseen her tests had informed her that she would lead a real mission, one that would test both her abilities and her leadership. The target, an alien outpost that had been raiding human colonies. It was time to strike back. The mission wasn't just about the success of the strike. It was about proving that humanity wasn't just a species trying to survive. They were here to take their place. Mia's heart was heavy with the responsibility, but her resolve was clear. This was her chance to show everyone, including herself, that she could control the power inside her and use it to protect her people. "All right, squad," Mia said, her voice steady despite the nervous energy that buzzed under her skin. "We move in fast, neutralize their defenses, and secure the outpost. No one gets left behind. Stick to the plan." Her team nodded in agreement, their faces set with determination. They trusted her. She had to lead them well. She had no room for mistakes. The night air on the alien world was cold, and the terrain was rocky and uneven. Mia's boots crunched softly against the ground as they made their way toward the target. The mission had been planned meticulously. The alien outpost was heavily fortified, but Mia knew they had the advantage, speed and surprise. They reached the outskirts of the outpost just after nightfall. Mia gestured to the squad to spread out, taking up positions behind cover. She could feel her heart racing. This wasn't a training simulation anymore. The stakes were real. The adrenaline was already beginning to course through her, and the strange energy in her blood stirred in response, thrumming under her skin like a storm waiting to break free. The outpost was guarded by a few alien soldiers, but Mia knew there would be more inside. She had studied the maps, the intel, and she had a plan. The first objective was to disable the energy shields surrounding the main compound. Without them, the outpost would be vulnerable. She crouched low behind a large boulder, her rifle ready, her mind focused. The hum of alien energy in the distance made her pulse quicken, but she held herself still. This was it. There could be no hesitation now. "Mia, what's the plan?" Sergeant Miller whispered over the comm. Mia took a deep breath and gave the signal to move. "We hit the shield generators first. I'll disable the main power source. You guys cover me. Keep an eye on the guards." The squad moved swiftly, silent as shadows. The alien guards had their backs turned as they patrolled, unaware of the humans closing in on them. Mia could hear her heartbeat in her ears, louder than the faint hum of alien machinery around them. But she couldn't let fear slow her down. The power inside her surged again, but she forced herself to focus. This time, she could control it. As they neared the shield generator, Mia gestured for her squad to stop. They crouched low, weapons aimed, waiting for her signal. The shields were just ahead, protected by two alien soldiers who stood guard, chatting in a language Mia didn't understand. She took a steadying breath, narrowing her eyes. "Now," she whispered, her voice low but firm. In an instant, her squad sprang into action. Miller and Harper took out the guards with precision, their shots silent but deadly. Mia moved forward, heart pounding, toward the control panel. She knew this part of the mission could be tricky. If she failed, the whole outpost would be on high alert before they even had a chance to strike. She knelt beside the control panel, her fingers dancing over the buttons, reading the alien interface as best she could. She had studied the alien technology during her training, but this was different. She had to make the right call. One mistake could destroy everything. 15 seconds, Miller's voice came through the comms. The squad was keeping watch, making sure the area stayed clear. Mia's fingers pressed a final sequence of buttons. A hum filled the air and then, nothing. For a brief moment, Mia thought she had failed. But then the shields flickered and went dark. The way was clear. "Shield down," she said, exhaling in relief. "Let's move." The team advanced toward the heart of the outpost, moving quickly, silently. Mia could feel the weight of her power like a spark ready to explode. She had to focus. The stakes were too high. As they reached the compound, an alarm suddenly blared. The enemy had discovered their presence. Mia's blood rushed in her ears as she realized the true scale of the battle ahead. More alien soldiers began to pour out of the outpost, their eyes glowing with fury. They were coming for her. Mia felt a surge of panic, but she couldn't let it take control. She stepped forward, raising her rifle. But this time her blood didn't just hum beneath her skin, it roared. The power was overwhelming, an electric current coursing through her veins. The ground beneath her feet seemed to tremble as the energy inside her reached a fever pitch. Without thinking, she extended her hand toward the advancing aliens. A bright flash of light erupted from her palm, a surge of pure energy that knocked the enemy soldiers off their feet. The blast was so powerful that it sent several of the aliens flying backward, their bodies crashing into the walls of the outpost. Mia's heart raced, the power still crackling in her limbs. She didn't know how she did it. She hadn't meant to, but the energy had taken over. It was as though her body had learned to channel it. For a moment, everything was still, and the soldiers lay unconscious or scattered around her. "Mia," Miller shouted, his voice filled with shock and awe. "What the hell was that?" Mia stood there, breathing heavily, her body shaking from the exertion. She had never felt anything like that before. It had been a release, a dangerous, uncontrolled release of power that she hadn't expected. I don't know," she whispered, her voice trembling, "but we can't waste this." The mission wasn't over yet. The alien forces were still coming, and Mia wasn't going to let them take her or her team down. This was her fight, and she would win it. Part 6, The Price of Power. Mia stood at the edge of the battlefield, the sounds of alien soldiers scrambling to regroup fading into the background. Her hands were still trembling from the power she had unleashed just moments ago. The shockwaves had sent a dozen alien soldiers flying, their bodies now lying motionless around her. The force had been too much, too sudden, and Mia knew it. She had barely controlled it. If she hadn't been careful, she could have caused more damage than she ever intended. The squad was still catching their breath, recovering from the chaos of the fight. Miller approached her cautiously, his eyes wide with disbelief and awe. "That was—" He didn't finish his sentence. He didn't need to. Everyone had seen what had happened. Mia had called down a storm, her blood, her power, surging through her with a force no one could have predicted. She could still feel it inside her, a restless energy ready to break free again. "Are you okay?" Miller asked, his voice soft but concerned. Mia nodded, forcing a smile. She was fine, at least physically. Her heart was pounding, her body still trembling from the blast of energy, but she couldn't let them see her fear. Not now. She had just done something no human had ever done before. She couldn't show weakness. "I'm fine," she said, her voice a little shaky. "We need to keep moving." The team nodded, but Mia could see the looks they exchanged. They were all in awe, but they were also worried. Mia's power had been overwhelming, and though it had helped them defeat the first wave of enemies, it had also brought them closer to something dangerous, something Mia didn't fully understand. "Let's finish this," Mia added, trying to shake off the uncertainty building inside her. She had control now, she just needed to stay focused. The team continued moving through the outpost, sweeping through the corridors and rooms with practiced efficiency. They were getting closer to their goal, the command center. If they could take that out, it would cripple the alien forces. But Mia couldn't stop thinking about the power she had just unleashed. What if it happened again? What if she couldn't control it? As they approached the command center, Mia's thoughts were interrupted by a voice in her earpiece. "Cadet Carter, we have a situation." It was Commander Varos's voice, calm but urgent. Mia froze for a moment, hearing the tension in his words. "What is it, sir?" "There's a second wave of reinforcements heading your way," Varos replied. "A larger group. We've detected multiple energy signatures. They're coming fast. You won't have much time." Mia's stomach dropped. They couldn't afford another battle, not with the power inside her still unpredictable. She had to finish this now. "We're close to the command center," she said, gritting her teeth. "We can make it." "You have 5 minutes before the reinforcements arrive. Make it count." Mia looked at her team, their expressions set, determined. They had no choice now. They couldn't stop. She couldn't stop. "Move out," Mia commanded, her voice steady, but inside she was battling the rising fear. They pushed forward, quickly making their way into the heart of the alien command post. The doors were locked, but with a few well-placed charges, they blasted through. Inside, the alien command center was filled with alien officers, busy coordinating operations. They didn't expect the human force to arrive so quickly. Mia and her team wasted no time. They split up, taking out the enemy soldiers and officers with ruthless efficiency. Mia led the charge, her rifle in one hand and her power simmering just beneath the surface. Every time she fired, every time she moved, she could feel the energy inside her, restless, threatening to break free again. "Clear the area," Mia ordered. Her team swept through the center, ensuring no one was left standing. As she reached the main control panel, she hesitated. The power inside her surged again, and Mia had to focus. She couldn't afford another explosion, not here. She knelt in front of the control panel and began working, overriding the alien systems and setting the charges that would take down the command center. The energy inside her was wild, but she pushed it down, breathing slowly, letting her training guide her. "Got it," she said, her voice steady now, the focus calming her nerves. "Charges are set, we've got to go." But as she stood, a loud, earth-shattering boom rattled the building. Mia's heart stopped. The second wave of reinforcements had arrived. "Too late," Miller said under his breath as he turned toward the entrance. Alien soldiers flooded into the command center, weapons raised. The battle was about to get worse. Mia's pulse quickened as she surveyed the room. Her mind raced. She didn't have time to think. The squad was already engaged, fighting back, but Mia knew she had to do something more. She had to end this. Her hands clenched into fists, and the energy inside her surged again, stronger than before. She had no time to control it, no time to hold back. It was too much. "Everyone get down," she shouted, her voice full of panic. Before anyone could react, she extended her hand forward. The power exploded out of her, a burst of pure energy that collided with the alien soldiers, throwing them back with a force that cracked the walls. The explosion of energy felt like a shockwave, shaking the building and sending debris flying. Her team hit the floor, covering their heads as the power rolled over them. When the dust cleared, Mia stood in the center of the room, her body shaking from the effort. The alien soldiers were scattered, unconscious or worse. The room was eerily quiet. Mia was breathing heavily, her chest rising and falling rapidly. She had done it again, unleashed the storm. But this time it was different. It was worse. Her body was on fire, and she could feel the power still raging inside her, threatening to break free. "Is everyone okay?" she asked, her voice weak but determined. One by one, her team members stood up, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe. They had seen her power, and they knew this wasn't just something she could control anymore. This was a force that could destroy everything if she wasn't careful. "We're fine," Miller said, his voice full of respect. "But you, Mia, what was that?" Mia didn't answer. She couldn't. She didn't know what had just happened. But she knew one thing: she couldn't keep doing this. Not like this. She had to learn to control it before it was too late. Part 7, The Price of Power. Mia stood in the midst of the destroyed command center, breathing heavily. Her hands still trembled from the explosion of energy she had just unleashed, and her head was spinning. Her squad had made it through the second wave of reinforcements, but the toll of the battle was clear. The air was thick with smoke, the walls cracked and scorched from the blasts. Alien bodies lay scattered around the room, evidence of the destructive force Mia had let loose. She could feel the power inside her, a constant hum beneath her skin, as if it was always waiting for the next chance to break free. Every moment felt like a battle to keep it under control. She had barely contained it just now, and yet the energy still buzzed in her veins, more intense than before. Miller was the first to approach, his face grim as he took in the aftermath. "You did it, Mia. We've got them, but are you okay?" Mia didn't answer immediately. She couldn't. The question of whether she was okay seemed almost irrelevant. Yes, the mission was a success, but at what cost? The power inside her had come so close to consuming her. What if she couldn't control it next time? What if she hurt someone? I don't know," Mia admitted finally, her voice low and shaky. "I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this." Miller nodded, his expression softening with understanding. "We've seen what you're capable of, but Mia, you have to take control of it. You can't let it control you." Mia closed her eyes, the weight of his words sinking in. She knew he was right. But how? She had trained her whole life for moments like this. But the power inside her wasn't something she had prepared for. It was unpredictable, overwhelming, and every time she used it, it felt like she was one step closer to losing herself. Harper walked up behind them looking equally as tired but with a fire in her eyes. "You saved us. No one else could have done that, but you're right. You can't keep pushing like this. The next battle, the next test, it could be worse." Mia turned to look at her team. They were all alive. They had all survived. But she knew they were worried. They had seen the destruction she was capable of. They knew just as well as she did that she wasn't fully in control yet. "I'll figure it out," Mia said, more to herself than anyone else. "I have to." The voice of Commander Varros crackled through her earpiece. "Cadet Carter, report." Mia's heart skipped a beat. She had been expecting this. The mission had been a success, but she hadn't heard from Varros since the battle began. She knew this wasn't just a check-in. "This is Mia," she said, her voice steady despite the unease crawling up her spine. "We've completed the mission. The command center is destroyed. The reinforcements are neutralized. We've secured the area." There was a brief pause before Varros responded. "Understood. Good work, Cadet. But there's something you need to know. The alien forces are regrouping, and we've just received intel. There's another operation, one that could change the course of this war. You'll be needed again. Soon." Mia's stomach tightened. She wasn't sure she was ready for another mission, not with the way the power inside her felt like it was spiraling out of control. But there was no choice. The galaxy wasn't waiting for her to figure it out, and humanity's future was at stake. "We'll be ready," Mia replied, pushing down the wave of fear that tried to rise in her chest. "What's the next target?" "Intel suggests the Xanthian fleet is moving toward one of our colonies," Varros said. "If they reach it, the damage will be catastrophic. You and your team are to stop them." Mia clenched her fists, the weight of the command sinking in. The Xanthian fleet was one of the most powerful in the galaxy. The odds were stacked against them, and she could feel the pressure building. But she wasn't going to back down, not now, not after everything they had been through. "Understood," Mia said, her voice firm. "We'll handle it." As Varros signed off, Mia took a deep breath. The battle wasn't over. It would never be over, and she had to figure out how to control the power within her before it controlled her. "All right, squad," Mia said, turning to her team. "We move out in 15 minutes. Get your gear ready. We've got one more fight to win." The squad nodded, moving to gather their weapons and supplies. Mia lingered for a moment, her eyes scanning the battlefield, the ruins of the command center, and the silent bodies of the fallen aliens. The weight of everything they had accomplished hung heavily on her shoulders. "Hey, Mia," Miller's voice broke through her thoughts. She turned to face him. "You're doing great. I know it's hard, but we're with you. We believe in you." Mia smiled faintly, grateful for his words, but inside she was still uncertain. She didn't know if she could handle the power inside her, the responsibility of using it, but she couldn't afford to back down. She had to fight, for Earth, for humanity, for everyone who had put their trust in her. She glanced at her team. They were ready. They would face whatever came next together. "Let's finish this," Mia said, her voice full of resolve. With that, they headed out, ready to face the next battle, unaware of what the galaxy still had in store for them. But Mia knew one thing for sure. She wasn't backing down. Not now, not ever. The Xanthian fleet loomed in the distance, a massive, menacing force that could destroy everything in its path. Mia and her team stood ready, their eyes fixed on the approaching threat. The mission had shifted, but the stakes had never been higher. The alien forces were stronger than ever, and Mia was about to lead her team into the heart of the enemy's fire. She could feel the energy inside her again, that same restless power that had surged out of control before. But this time, she was different. She was stronger. She had learned to embrace the power, to guide it instead of letting it control her. It was no longer a burden. It was a tool, one she would use to protect everything she cared about. "Stay close. We do this together," Mia said, her voice filled with quiet confidence. Her team nodded, ready for whatever came next. As the Xanthian fleet drew closer, Mia raised her rifle and the energy inside her began to hum again, but now it felt familiar. Controlled. Her hand clenched around her weapon, the weight of the galaxy resting on her shoulders. This was it, the final test. Mia stepped forward. They were ready.